Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a truly special story for you, a tale that feels like it's been whispered down through generations, a story about kindness, a little bit of magic, and the unexpected twists of fate. So get comfortable, maybe grab a cup of tea, and let's travel back in time to a small, sun-dusted village nestled among rolling hills. In this village lived a farmer and his wife. They were good people, with hearts as warm as the summer sun, but life wasn't easy. They worked from sunrise to sunset, their hands calloused and their backs aching from toiling in the fields. Despite their hard work, they barely had enough to get by. Their small cottage was humble and their meals were simple. But their love for each other filled their home with a quiet richness that money couldn't buy. They faced every hardship together, their spirits unbroken, always hoping for a better tomorrow. One particularly hot afternoon, the farmer was out in the field, his plough turning over the dry, stubborn earth. The sun beat down relentlessly, and sweat dripped from his brow. It felt like just another long, exhausting day. But then something unusual happened. His plough struck something hard with a dull thud. It wasn't a rock. Curious, he knelt and began to dig away the soil with his hands. What he unearthed was not a stone or a root, but a jar. It was an old clay jar, covered in dirt and grime, but there was something peculiar about it, something that made him pause. It felt different, almost humming with a forgotten energy. Intrigued by his strange discovery, the farmer carefully lifted the jar and decided to take it home. It wasn't beautiful, but it was a break from the ordinary. A small mystery on an otherwise predictable day. When he arrived home, his wife met him at the door, her face etched with worry from the day's heat. He showed her the jar, and her curiosity mirrored his own. "What a strange thing to find in the middle of our field," she said, taking it from him. She was a practical woman, and her first thought was to clean it. Perhaps they could use it to store grain or oil. So she took the jar to their well and began to scrub away the layers of caked-on dirt. As the grime washed away, she noticed intricate, faint patterns etched into the clay. It was clearly old, a relic from a time long past. Once it was clean, she filled it with water to rinse out the inside. She poured the water in, then tipped the jar to pour it out. But as the water streamed onto the ground, she noticed something incredible. She poured and poured, but the water level inside the jar didn't drop. Not even by a single inch. She called out to her husband in astonishment, "Come quickly, you have to see this." The farmer rushed over, and his wife demonstrated the jar's unbelievable property. She poured a bucketful of water out, yet the jar remained stubbornly, magically full. They looked at each other, their eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and wonder. They tried again and again. No matter how much water they took, the jar instantly replenished itself. It was a magic water jar. This simple, forgotten object held an endless supply of the one thing everyone needed most. For a moment, they just stood there, overwhelmed by their discovery. Thoughts of wealth and an easy life could have easily filled their minds. They could sell the water, become the richest people in the region, and never have to work another day in their lives. But that wasn't who they were. Their first thought wasn't of themselves, but of their neighbors, their friends, the community they were a part of. They looked at the endless, clear water shimmering in the jar and saw not a path to riches, but a chance to help. They knew exactly what they had to do. It just so happened that a long, harsh, dry season had settled over the land. The sun had baked the fields into cracked mosaics. The village well was running dangerously low, and people were beginning to worry. Crops were withering, and the threat of thirst loomed over every household. It was a time of great anxiety and hardship for the entire village. But now, with their magical discovery, the kind farmer and his wife had a solution. They didn't hoard their miracle. Instead, they opened their home to everyone. Word spread quickly through the village. The farmer and his wife have water, an endless supply. At first, people were skeptical. How could it be possible? But as the first few villagers returned with their buckets full to the brim, disbelief turned into joyful relief. A line soon formed outside the small cottage. A line of hope. The couple worked tirelessly, day and night, filling every bucket, pot, and container that was brought to them. They asked for nothing in return, offering the life-giving water freely with warm smiles and kind words. Their generosity was a cool stream in a parched land. They saved the villagers' crops, quenched the thirst of every man, woman, and child, and filled the community with a renewed sense of hope. The villagers, in turn, showered the couple with gratitude. They brought them fresh vegetables from their rehydrated gardens, helped them repair their cottage, and treated them with the deepest respect and love. The farmer and his wife were no longer just poor workers. They were heroes, the heart of their community. Their lives, once so difficult, became richer in ways they had never imagined, filled with friendship and the deep satisfaction of helping others. But, as is often the case in stories like this, good news travels fast, and so does the shadow of greed. In a neighboring village lived a man whose heart was as dry and barren as the parched fields. He was known for his selfishness and his insatiable desire for more. When he heard the whispers of a magic water jar, his eyes gleamed not with wonder, but with avarice. He didn't see a tool for kindness. He saw a source of infinite profit. He could control the water supply, sell it for a fortune, and hold power over everyone. The thought consumed him. So the greedy man devised a cunning plan. He put on a mask of desperation, his face a picture of feigned hardship, and traveled to the kind couple's village. He approached their home, bowing low and telling them a sob story about his own village's suffering. "Please," he begged, his voice dripping with false humility, "lend me your marvelous jar for just one day. Let me bring this miracle to my people, and I will return it by sunrise. I swear it." The farmer and his wife, whose hearts were always open, felt a pang of sympathy. How could they deny someone in need? Despite a flicker of unease, their compassionate nature won out, and they agreed to lend him the jar. The greedy man could barely contain his glee. He thanked them profusely, his mind already racing with plans. He took the jar and, instead of returning to his own village, he hid himself away, waiting for the cover of darkness. His plan wasn't just to borrow the jar, but to steal it and flee, to keep the magic all for himself. As night fell, he clutched the precious jar and began to make his escape. He imagined the wealth, the power, the life of luxury that awaited him. But magic, especially the kind born of goodness, has a way of protecting itself. As the greedy man ran, stumbling through the darkness with the stolen jar in his arms, a strange thing happened. The jar, which had felt so solid and sturdy, began to tremble. It grew hotter and hotter in his hands, as if rejecting his selfish touch. He tried to tighten his grip, but it slipped from his grasp. It fell to the ground not with a simple crack, but with a blinding flash of light and a sound like shattering crystal. The magic water jar broke into 1,000 tiny pieces, shimmering for a moment in the moonlight before turning to dust. And just like that, the magic was gone forever. The greedy man stared in horror at the dust on the ground. He had lost everything. In his attempt to seize it all, he was left with nothing but the bitter taste of his own greed. He had gained nothing and had destroyed a source of immense good. Back in the village, the kind farmer and his wife discovered the jar was gone and were saddened by the betrayal. But when news of its destruction reached them, they were not consumed by anger. Their lives had already been changed for the better, not by the magic itself, but by the love and community they had built through their kindness. They continued to live happily and peacefully, respected and cherished by all who knew them. Their story became a legend in the village, a timeless reminder that true wealth isn't found in what you have, but in what you give away. The greatest magic of all, they knew, was the kindness in their own hearts. Thank you so much for listening to this story with me today. I hope it brought a little bit of warmth and magic into your day. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story time. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the tale of the magic water jar. Until next time, take care and spread a little kindness.